Citing threats posed by the Somali terrorist group Al-Shabaab, the U.S. Department of State has issued a travel warning to Kenya. The statement issued late Thursday warns U.S. citizens to avoid traveling to the border areas of Kenya. It further warned American citizens to avoid traveling to northeastern Kenyan counties of Mandera, Wajir, and Garissa, and the coastal counties of Tana River, Lamu, and Nairobi neighborhood of Eastleigh. In Mombasa, the U.S. Embassy recommends U.S. citizens to visit Old Town only during daylight hours and avoid using the Likoni ferry due to safety concerns. Kenya largely depends on tourism as a foreign exchange earner, and the travel warning is likely to impact the tourism industry. Now, for more perspective on the travel warning, retired Captain Simiyu Werunga joins us on the phone from Nairobi. Captain Werunga, what's the general reaction in Kenya to this latest warning from the U.S. State Department?
I think from the Kenyan population, there's nothing much people are talking about, because I think Kenyans are getting used to these travel advisories. But I think from a government perspective, because of the resurgent tourism activities and the likelihood that this advisory may impact again on the recovery of the industry, the government seems to be a bit worried and concerned about this advisory. But generally, there's nothing much Kenyans are talking about this advisory.
In a specific reaction from the government in terms of tighter security at the airports and other entry points of the country?
Yes, because one of the reasons why, although the government is not talking, one of the reasons why we've seen a leadership change, especially at the authority that is in charge of Kenya airports, is because there was a general concern that initially things are not being run well, and one of the reasons why Kenya has not been successful to have direct flights to the U.S. is because of the safety standards of our airports. So yes, the country and the government is putting a lot of efforts to ensure that what diminishes our status as a secure and as a safe country are dealt with. But generally on this specific advisory, I think the government is learning to take them in stride and do what they need to do and what is expected of them as a government.
Now, as we mentioned, Kenya's tourism industry was just picking up. And how does this alert affect the industry?
It does, because the biggest problem is tourists do not necessarily depend on what the destination country says about their safety. And the fact that they rely on their government to advise them on what is expected at their destination. As a country, I think we are concerned that when we are just seeing a resurgence in tourism in this country, then 1 year down the line, the U.S. government is issuing another advisory. But on the same note, we realize that the government has put in a lot of money to ensure that the security sector takes charge of our tourism, improve on what has been spoken about as the low areas in terms of safety for visitors and animals. And this has now been 2 years continuously. So I think there's a serious improvement in terms of what the government is doing to assure tourists and visitors to this country that something is being done. And lastly, on the same, we know the British government and the U.S. government are working very closely with the Kenyan government to ensure that tourist destinations and the visitors are kept in tandem with what the government is doing in assuring them that safety and security of the country has tremendously improved.
So particularly in Mombasa or some of the counties that have been mentioned, and we know that a lot of tourists go there, do you think the government or the local government in Mombasa is taking any measures at this point?
Yes, and I need to be very clear on this. Of course, the county government of Tana River has not done much in terms of security because we don't hear much about that. But in terms of Mombasa and Kwale and Kilifi, we know the county governments have tremendously augmented the efforts of the national government. We know there's a lot of security initiatives that are being done on the ground to ensure that the Kenyan people also participate in ensuring that the counties are safe and
Mr.
secure.
Werunga, thank you so much. We appreciate the insight. Thanks to retired Captain Simiyu Werunga, who joined us on the phone from Nairobi.